welcome all. I'm going to give a short video about the great changes that have happened in the US election scene since I did a previous webinar on the election in which I went through the charts of the two contestants at the time, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And now, of course, we have a new nominee. And so everything has changed. And I want to explain some things about the chart of Kamala Harris, especially using Sarvatobhadra chakra, which I call the magic prism. And so I'm, as always, working in the tradition of Jyotish from Sri Achyutananda and with the magnificent teaching of my Jyotish guide, Sanjay Rath, and of course, always with the inspiration of the golden chain coming through the gurus and my spiritual teacher. I'm putting at the beginning of this as a prayer the shlokas from Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib about one of the 15 lunar days, the tithi called Purnima, the full moon, as this is the tithi for the chart of Kamala Harris. And so this is here as the blessing at the beginning, the Guru's words on Purnima tithi. So then going on from my previous study, I definitely called out Joe Biden to be the victor in the election 2024. And I was one key thing I looked at was the Sarvatobhadra chakra around Joe Biden for election day. And there was a fantastic double benefic line going to the coronation nakshatra. But the elephant in the room that I overlooked, not the Republican elephant, as I like to say, was that there was an exchange on the ascendant of the yearly chart for Joe Biden, and this showed a huge turnabout. The circumstances still do point to victory, but victory will go to his chosen successor, Kamala Harris. And Kamala's astrological moon is exactly conjunct Joe's moon to the degree, and the same sign, of course. So it shows that the same coronation double blessing comes onto her moon on election day. But let's go through the details of the Sarvatobhadra chakra and her natal chakra for some very interesting insights. This moment on July 21st, 2024, when Joe Biden announced that he would drop out of the race, it set into motion an amazing chain of circumstances. And previously, Kamala Harris had been not very well publicized, not highly regarded, low in approval ratings. And most political observers did not have confidence that she could rise into the office of the presidency if ever necessary. Now she is enthusiastically embraced by huge swaths of the electorate and is leading in many of the polls. So let's see how that, and it happens so quickly. Let's see how that chart of the moment comes out in Sarvatobhadra chakra, because it explains so many things about how that chakra works. So let's see this chakra, which has the 5 pillars of time in it. All 5 elements are contained in the SBC. So let's see this powerful moment for the transit of the SBC. First, we have Kamala's birth chart. This is based on her recorded birth time. Her birth certificate is shown here. And so we're using that time. We don't even need to tweak it, as the divisional charts we use for rectification all look accurate. So we're using that time. And for the purposes of this analysis, I am using to rank the karakas, I am following the Karnataka school, which says to subtract the degrees of any retrograde planet in the chart from 30 degrees, just as we do for Rahu. And so when we do that, we can rank all her degrees as shown here on this slide. Jupiter, which is at 0 something but retrograde, comes out to be 2921 and qualifies as Atma Karaka using this Viloma variation, opening your mind to it. Try this as an experiment. And then Rahu will be a Matya Karaka. It comes to 2855. And then the other planets follow in suit. Mars is the Bratri Karaka, showing the guru and guide. And interestingly, Saturn, which also is retrograde, shows as the Matri Karaka, the homeland. And we see the mother and father are within 1 degree. The Matri is Saturn and the father is Venus. So that goes along with a life in which there can be parental tension, breakup, father left at early age. She was raised by a single mother. So I'm going to call out the 5 strongest principles in this chart that make it the extraordinary kind of chart that has to be for somebody whose destiny puts them in such prominence and potentially in such a powerful position. So first of all, we'll start with the Atmakaraka. So taking Jupiter as retrograde, as Atmakaraka, any retrograde planet, Raja tells us, has triple strength. And when it's Jupiter, it especially focuses on the natural 9th house, the place of Jupiter's work. And here we have a strong focus then on the world stage, which is read from the 9th house, and also the qualities of duty, freedom loving, independence loving, and justice, the search for justice. So these are the qualities that Kamala Harris is associated with by her supporters. So taking next from Jupiter, since it's focused on the 9th house, let's look at the 9th house. There we find another retrograde planet, and this is Saturn, or Shani, who is retrograde and in triple strength, therefore. Saturn is in its own sign, so very strong in the element of the air, motion, and setting things in motion, and communication and thinking. So she has a triple strength desire to serve the mother and the country, because Saturn is the Matri Karaka. So these are the prominent themes that she talks about in her speeches: the rights of women, and especially patriotism and serving the country. Also here is the AL, the Aruda Lagna. The AL is a projected image, which is politicians, how they are seen by the public. So she's seen as someone serious, dignified, and hardworking. And opposite Saturn is Venus. So she also has this quality of joy. She's known for her laughter. And Venus gives that. So going then from the 9th house, we go to the ascendant, Lagna. And here we find the Lord of the 9th house in the ascendant, which is a fantastic yoga. And Rahu is the co-lord of Aquarius. When Saturn is in Aquarius, we should take Rahu as the lord of the sign. So it's exactly rising at the given birth time. And Rahu is exalted in Gemini. So this north node of the moon, sitting on the ascendant in exalted state, gives an energy called avatar energy. It makes the person an icon, someone who has beyond the normal projection and leadership. this prominence of a node is found in the charts of rock stars and people who are, famous. It gives this like electric charge around the personality. So that's what we're seeing operating with Kamala. And this planet being the Amatya Karaka is also the Lord of career success. Now we'll take for our next principle, go to the Lord of the ascendant, which is Mercury. And Mercury is sitting in the fifth house of Leo, where it is supported by the sun, who's in exchange with Venus. And this exchange of the third house and fifth house is a yoga for early success. So it's also supporting a Maharaja yoga, ninth lord in the first lord in the fifth lord exchanging with the third. And finally, we see confirmation of this kind of powerful royal authority who can be potentially the leader of a powerful nation, because we have the moon completely full moon in the 11th house, further strengthened by an exchange with Mars, who is the BK, guide and guru. And so it's very interesting that Kamala's moon is exactly conjunct the moon of her political mentor, which is Joe Biden. So the passing of the torch was so easy, moon to moon. So now we'll look at Sarvatobhadra chakra to see this magic moment. And for those curious about how the Sarvatobhadra chakra works, there's some earlier videos on this channel explaining the basic details. So today I'm going to go a little bit more advanced into the elements involved in the SBC. So we have the 5 components of the Panchang, the 5 pillars of time. And sorry about this video, I'm just going to push it to the side there. I mean, the self view, let that be. So we have the 5 elements, water, earth, fire, air, and ether, are all mapped into the SBC in a most ingenious way. And so that's what we'll look at now. And at any moment in time, when all 5 elements get activated, this causes a tremendous activation. And that is the kind of moment we're looking at. So we see that in the, so I'm going to go into these kind of very, scholarly details. So if you're not interested in how this chakra works, you can skip ahead to the last slide, but I'm just going to go through this because I think it's valuable to learn this. So we have the nakshatra, which is the air element, and these are shown in all the nakshatras listed around the outer ring. You can ignore these letters and numbers. These are just for orientation. But the nakshatras are the outermost ring going in a clockwise fashion. And And then we have the daily yoga in the Panchang, the Nitya yoga. This is shown by the letters, and we'll explain exactly how you pinpoint that. And then we have fire, which is shown by the weekday. The weekdays are ranged around the center. Then we have the water element shown by the tithis, which are usually shown by numbers, and they're also around the center. Purnima, the full moon, is at the very center of the SBC. And then we have Karana, the earth, which shows the job to do, and that's shown through these signs. So we'll go into analyzing the moment that Biden shocked his own supporters, his staff. They didn't even know this was coming, and the world, by announcing on Twitter that he would drop out of the race. So this chart is set for that moment. And very interestingly, at that time, the moon was in this special point called Abhijit Nakshatra, only roughly 4 degrees long. It's the power center of the entire Sarvatabhadra chakra. And the moon was there showing this giving up, passing the torch. And interestingly, Abhijit Nakshatra is important for the USA because whenever a USA president is inaugurated, it's always on January 20th at noon, high noon. And this is when the sun is in Abhijit Nakshatra. It's the nakshatra of the leader. And so when the sun is at high noon in Abhijit, that is when the president gets inaugurated. So it's very poignant that the moment Joe Biden gives up his status as being the nominee to succeed himself, the moon is in Abhijit Nakshatra. And Jupiter, as it transits, is in Rohini, another very favored nakshatra, and giving its front Veda across to this moon, showing an act of generosity and wisdom. So we see it was like an ego surrender, the moon there, by the sitting president who had believed that he, as he said in his address, he believed he deserved another term. He's accomplished a lot. And he also believed he could beat Donald Trump. However, circumstances were against him. On the day Saturn turned retrograde, that was the day of the debate with Donald Trump, in which he was sick that day. He was exhausted after a European trip and a lot of diplomatic work. And he came across as totally frail and feeble and caused consternation among all his supporters. And people started demanding he drop out. And he resisted and resisted. But finally, the last straw was he contracted COVID. And so finally that weekend, he came to his own moment of truth and on his own terms decided it would be best for him at age 81 under this Shani retrograde to back out. And then an hour later, he endorsed his vice president as his successor. And events happened so quickly that there was very little chance for others to try to vie for the name of successor. And it became clearly only Kamala who could be the next nominee, and she is the nominee. So we'll look at her chart and we'll see the impact. We'll see how Sarvatabhadra chakra is so powerful, both in her natal chart and how it works on that moment, that transit moment. So here in the upper left, we have the 5 elements of the Panchang, plus the pada of the nakshatra. We have the vara, the tithi, the karana, the nakshatra and its pada, and the yoga. And we'll see how each one of these is found in the SPC. So on this day, it was a Sunday, and Sunday is in this cell. And this happens to also be the birthday of Kamala, which is Tuesday. So this same cell is getting this double Veda, this double hit from Mars, from the career, and Venus from the debts, which is like, this is the inevitability of this is what must be done. So we have Venus, the Lord of the event chart, and Mars, both putting Veda on the Vara, the energy of the day. So that's the fire element. Then we have the tithi, which is the emotion involved. And we're getting a double hit on this Pratipad tithi by the same 2 planets, Mars and Venus, because number 1 is Pratipad. And this is the tithi for the event. And also Kamala's natal tithi, which is number 15, Purnima, is getting a hit at the same moment because the transit Mercury is has just come through the corner of the chakra. And any planet in the first pada, this little one means it's in the first pada, or of these, after coming through the corner, being in the first pada, or just before going through the corner, being in the fourth pada, these two padas have this special powerful effect of lighting up the central cell where Shani is, and three of the Tithis, 5, 10, and 15, are there along with Saturn. So that only gets lit up in these intense moments when a planet is going around the corner. This normally is associated with a painful shift, and it's sometimes referred to as the scream, because all the four vowels are in these diagonal corners, and they only start making sound when a planet goes through the corner like that. So this is a moment of the scream. This was a moment that changed history. Next, we look at the earth element. What job is there to do? And this is the Karna. So the Lord of Karna tells what is your task. And so this sign is where the Karna, how does the Karna get activated? We look at the planet that rules the Karna, which for the event is Moon. And so we look at which of the Rashis in the center, which of the signs in the center is ruled by the Karna Lord. Some of them it's 2, but for the Moon, it's only the Karna of Cancer. So we're seeing that the Veda that is coming from Venus is going through Cancer. So the Lord of the chart, Venus, is piercing through, this is the job we have to do, Cancer, which is surrendering and giving up this powerful position by the president. So this is Biden's job, to pass the torch, Cancer, the Moon. And at the same time, Kamala's natal Karna is, her Lord is Sun, and so the Leo is where her job is shown. And so Mercury is activating Leo for her, which is this is part of the power of planets in the corners, because they not only activate the central diagonal, as we just showed, but they also have their normal diagonal forward Veda going through this line of letters, signs, and Tithis, and so on. So the normal forward Veda of Mercury here is going through Leo. So this is giving Kamala the job of Mercury. You know, she's the vice president. She's taking up power. It's very clear. Okay, next we see how to do, and this is very little known technique, you know, how to do the daily yoga in the SBC. So the yoga, which is a subtle energy of when we add the sun and moon degrees, and then we have to project it from the 7th nakshatra, Pusha, those 27 daily yogas show the etheric energy. And ether is the binding energy that pulls all of us together. And if the ether is weak, we are repelled. If the ether is strong, we are linked together. Just like a political party pulling a lot of people together should have a strong yoga, nitya yoga. So how we see this in the chakra is we start from the number of the daily yoga, which for this event, the yoga is number 2, Priti yoga. And we add the number 7 because Pusha Nakshatra is the 7th nakshatra. So we have to add 7 to the number of the yoga to find the place where we start from to find the Veda. So from 2, we have to start from nakshatra number 9, Aslesha, and then see where does it Veda, what letters is its Vedas piercing. So interestingly here, the only letter pierced on this part is D, which is the first letter in the name Donald. And then also, if we followed the Veda all the way across, the letter G would also be activated. So anybody with the first name starting with G, but that no one comes to mind. But this D is obviously very important because this is the huge factor of the opponent. And it's very interesting because Kamala Harris has her natal Mars, Lord of the Moon sign, in Aslesha. So Mars is also, her natal Mars is also putting a Veda through the name Donald. And not only is Donald the name of her opponent in the presidential race, it's also the name of her father. So this is a very powerful thing to see in her life. This is about who she's pulled towards and where Mars has to activate. Now, the last element and the most familiar use of that we have for SBC is to see the Vedas from the nakshatras. So here we'll keep it simple and focus only on the moon for the event and in the nativity charts. So as already seen, we have Jupiter putting a front Veda on the moon. So we see Jupiter is blessing this action and showing that wisdom and generosity are involved. And this event moon is also putting a Veda on Kamala Harris's natal Venus, which is here, down here. So when we come to her natal chart, we'll see that. And so the ascendant of the chart, of the event chart, has her natal Venus, and Jupiter is blessing that also. So that is the air element. We'll sum it up, and we'll just a few more slides here. We'll just do the total impact, and we'll add in the chart of Kamala to see really how powerful and magical this moment is. So up here we have the 5 elements for Kamala Harris. Her Vara is she's born on Mars, a Mars day. Her Tithi is Saturn and Purnima. Her Karna is ruled by the sun. Her Nakshatra is Ashwini. And her Yoga is number 15, Vajra, the diamond scepter of the ruler. And Moon is the ruler of it. So, the way we're looking at this is the square with the blue shadings is the natal chart of the person, Kamala Harris. This is her natal planets in these blue squares. And the green squares around the outside are the transits for the moment the torch was passed. All these green marks. So here we see, as we already noted, the Mars and the Venus. Venus was the lord of the event. The Mars and the Venus are putting their Vedas on the day lords of both the event and the native and the Tithi of the event, meanwhile, the Tithi of Kamala Harris is being activated by Mercury being in the corner, in the screen. So we see determination is being fueled by intense emotion as the transit Mercury and natal Mars are. Her natal Mars is also in the corner. Her natal Mars is in the 4th pada of Aslesha nakshatra. So by birth, she's born activating this central diagonal, which creates a resonance of all the vowels in all the 4 corners. So again, this is a very intense activation existing in the chart of any individual with a planet in the 4th pada of Aslesha, the 4th pada of Bharani, the 4th pada of Shravana, the 4th pada of Vishaka, and the 1st pada of the planets of the cells after the corner. So that shows this high frequency, high energy going on. Then we have the Karna Lord Leo, and as mentioned, Kamala's sun rules her karna. So the sign Leo is where her mission is. And this is very telling. We see how the natal ascendant with the exalted Rahu puts its Veda diagonally here through Cancer and through Leo. So it's activating her natal karna. It's also activating Cancer, which we saw was the karna for the event. And it's also activating her name letter, which is Kamala. The letter Ka gets activated by this powerful Veda, and her natal sun. So it's Sun and Rahu creating this force field, this energy. Sun Rahu gives a huge expansion of power and authority. And this is a counterweight to the opponent, Trump, who has Sun Rahu ruling his chart. We know he has a super powerful chart with Leo rising and Sun and Rahu in the 10th house, accounting for his massive presence as he has a full moon. So maybe at some time we can look at how Sarvata Bhadra Chakra on the election day will affect his chart. But enough for now. Summing up the total impact, we see that when we do the yoga, we add Kamala's natal yoga number 15, we add 7, and we get nakshatra number 22. So normally we use the 27 scheme, nakshatra of Vedas. I mean, we use the 22 scheme, but it's significant that number 22 is this very special sacred nakshatra of Abhijit in the 28 scheme, but leave that aside for now. Just as the normal 27 scheme way of looking at it, we get this, sorry, my drawing here is a little bit out of the cells, but the direct line diagonally goes like this, and it ends up in Shravana. The diagonal forward Veda comes from Magha to Shravana. And so this is also activated at birth by her natal chart Saturn, which we saw is a very strong Saturn in the Aruda Lagna in the fortunate 9th house in its own sign, and retrograde being in triple strength. So this activates this cell of Shravana, and Shravana is a special nakshatra, each nakshatra, special nakshatra, which I've explained in earlier videos, gives, it rules a certain department. And so this is the area of disputes. So we can see very well why she chose as a career to be a prosecutor. She thrives on debate and dispute. And so we see the transit Mercury is activating that. And so she is the one called out to carry the mantle forward and be the candidate and be in all the debates. So, okay, so finally, the last point is we see that transit Jupiter at the event its Veda is going from Rohini back into Ashwini. And that's where Kamala's natal moon is. So again, a fantastic blessing. Jupiter is blessing the moon and the transit Jupiter. And Jupiter is now beginning to station. So by election day, Jupiter will be retrograde, putting its strongest Veda will be this backwards diagonal Vega from Rohini into Ashwini onto her natal moon. So this will be a triple strength blessing onto the natal moon. And just one more point is when I did the election day transits for Joe Biden, interestingly, which will be it has the exact same moon. On election day, the transit moon is in Mula Nakshatra, and it puts a Veda into the coronation Nakshatra. So it's like a beautiful thing. The current Jupiter, depending on your opinion, I guess, but just trying to be objective as a Jyotishi, looking at these planets, what are the stars telling us? So all put together, this seems to be, to me, a starry recipe for victory. And I welcome any comments and would love to discuss further with anybody who would like to comment or email with your thoughts about these planets. Thank you very much for your attention and hope this has been useful to you.